Hiya, team. What films would I award the Oscars to? Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, this is a video detailing which films of the nominees I would award the Oscars to. Because obviously, sometimes it might not even be my choice, might not even be been nominated, and if so, I might mention it. But generally, it's about which films of the nominees I would award the Oscars to, and which I think they will be awarded to. Okay. So I'm just going to go through the ones that interest me. So, best cinematography: El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. For me, this has to be Oppenheimer, which sounds like it might be a trend, but maybe not. This has to be Oppenheimer because of what they've achieved with the IMAX format. I think the Nolan and Hoyte van Hoytema collaboration has gone from strength to strength, and this was epitome, one of those things. The nadir. It was the point at which it achieved true greatness. I think all these are very worthwhile nominees. Bless Maestro. I actually thought it was very, very self-conscious cinematography. Very, very fucking shit, if I'm honest. Best film editing is always a weird one for me because you're kind of like, I did a film degree, by the way. Not many of people watching this will know that. And did I learn much? No. But I did do, it was like a practical film degree. And I did do an editing masterclass with Joe Walker, who's gone on to edit Steve McQueen films. And I think he does Denis Villeneuve films now or something really big. And but at the time, he wasn't that big. Anyway, in that masterclass, I learned a lot about how editing in a subtle way can change like very understated films. Because when it comes to this category in the Oscars, you're kind of inclined to like give it to Oppenheimer again. The nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. And Oppenheimer being the most showy makes sense because, you know, there's so much cross-cutting in Nolan's films. It's like, it's a very intricate process, and you kind of, similar to performances, you kind of want to give it to the one that pushed the hardest. But then on the other hand, you look at a film like The Holdovers and it's so perfectly crafted, it doesn't need to step out of line to kind of achieve what it wants to achieve. So it's a really difficult category, that one. So I can't really say what I would give it to because I'm not sure if I know enough beyond that random take. Best sound has to be Oppenheimer. It just has to be. I don't give a fuck. Sorry, just going on to the main ones now. So best original song, I really want it to go to I'm Just Ken. That song has been stuck in my head since it came out. So what is that, 9 months now? And what Was I Made For is also a great song from Barbie. But I'm Just Ken is the one from me. But I think it's going to go to Billie Eilish. Best original screenplay is Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, Past Lives. Now, I'm not a fan of May December at all, and I'm glad it wasn't nominated for many films in the end, because there was a point where it was looking like it had quite a lot of heat. The rest of them, also Maestro, I think is actually really shoddily scripted. I mean, let's not go into it. I did a review on YouTube about that, but I think it's fucking shoddy, and I can't believe it's been nominated in screenplay of all fucking categories. But the other three, Anatomy of a Fall, Holdovers, and Past Lives, feel like really, really worthy nominees. For me, I feel like Anatomy of a Fall is the greatest of these three in terms of a screenplay achievement, because it manages to tease a really, really gripping courtroom drama out of what is ostensibly a very, very mundane accident or a very, very seemingly simple accident. And the relationships that it entwines around that is really, really vivid. Like, the characters are really, really, I guess vivid is the only word I can think of. I guess I just mean that one of my biggest icks with films is like when completely different type of film, but when like a Tarantino just writes in his own voice all the time, like everyone sounds like Tarantino. And I love it when you get a film that all the characters have really distinct voices, and I think that's what Anatomy of the Fall felt like. I keep saying The Fall. It's A Fall. Best Adapted Screenplay: American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. Again, I think this is a very weird category to judge, because if you haven't read all the source materials, how are you supposed to know what was best adapted? Because it's suggested that like the adaptation of the book or the source material is like part of the achievement, as opposed to just the finished product. You know what I mean? Because if you're looking at just the finished product, I feel like Barbie is a giant achievement. Like, I feel like the way that they tread the line between the commercial and the critical, I thought was really, really well done. And yeah, that's not adapted from any source material other than just the product of Barbie. So maybe that is a worthy winner without having read the others. I feel like Zone of Interest's achievement is in the production beyond the screenplay for me, because it's quite dialogue light and the performances are very strong, and it was to do with how he set up the filming of that with the hidden cameras and whatnot. So I wouldn't give it to Zone of Interest, even though I did love it. American Fiction, again, I feel like I haven't read the source material, but I fucking loved American Fiction. I had such a good time. Poor Things, again, I wouldn't say screenplay is what stands out to me. So weirdly, I think I might actually give it to Barbie, but it's not going to go to Barbie. It's going to go to Oppenheimer. Best Director: Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. Now, I do think it is time for Nolan this time. And I'm not massively keen on like, oh, it's an honorary Oscar. And I don't think it would be an honorary Oscar because it is a brilliant film by Nolan. But I do think to a certain extent, he hasn't been recognised enough for the successes he's had in the past. You know, he could have reasonably staked a claim in the year of Memento, arguably Prestige at the time, Interstellar definitely, Dark Knight definitely, and Dunkirk definitely, which I think he was nominated for Dunkirk, but he hasn't won one yet. This is the most Oscar-y of all those films, and I think if it has to be that, then it has to be that. So I think give it to Nolan. Scorsese's already got one, fuck off, mate. My relationship with Poor Things is very love-hate. But I do think it is a directorial achievement. But yes, I think it's time for Oppenheimer. I think the biggest, the person who could kind of reasonably regard themselves as having been snubbed in this category is Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. I think that is an unbelievable achievement, that film. And it is all down to the direction, because it's all down to the choices he made in terms of how it was shot. And the film isn't half the film that it is without those choices. And I'm not sure who else could have done it like that, really. Who else working now? So that's a shame, but I think it's going to go to Nolan, and I probably would give it to Nolan as well. Best Supporting Actor: there's Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction, who I thought was brilliant. Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon. Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer. Ryan Gosling, Barbie. And Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things. I think the performance that I enjoyed the most was Ryan Gosling in Barbie. I thought he was brilliant, but is it Oscar worthy? I don't want to denounce a performance just because it's comedic, but then what does he have to do in that? And I think a lot of what he has to do is caricatured just because of the subject matter, and I'm not sure if we know Ryan Gosling has brilliant range, and has he shown all of that range playing Ken? No. But then it was the performance I enjoyed the most out of these five. I don't know. For someone who doesn't like Poor Things, I would like Mark Ruffalo to be in the running, because I did think he was my favourite thing about that film. I think it will go to Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, and I think his performance is really good. But do I come away thinking about Robert Downey Jr. above and beyond most other people in that supporting cast? No, not really. I do think he has a lot to do with that character, but could someone else have done that? Yeah, definitely. Robert Downey Jr. being nominated is an absolute fucking joke. So I think I might be, if it was me, I might be inclined to give it to Mark Ruffalo, but it's going to go to Robert Downey Jr. Best Supporting Actress, Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks, Colour Purple, America Ferrera, Barbie, Jodie Foster, Nyad, Davine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers. I'd give it to Davine Joy Randolph. I love The Holdovers, and I think her as I was going to say the emotional core, but one of three emotional cores of the film. It has to, all three of those characters have to really work for the film to work. And I thought she was brilliant. I think Emily Blunt being nominated for Oppenheimer feels odd. I think the character's actually a bit underwritten considering like how bold she was supposed to have been in real life from what Nolan keeps talking about. I don't think she's given that much to do, and what she is given to do I don't think is that necessarily special. And I have to admit I haven't seen The Colour Purple and I haven't seen Nyad. So I give it Holdovers, but it's not really a complete take there. Best Actress, Annette Bening, Nyad, I haven't seen it. Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon. Sandra Huller, Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan, Maestro. Emma Stone, Poor Things. Now, this is a mega strong category. I honestly, again, I haven't seen Nyad, but those final four performances, I would honestly, I think you could justify giving it to any one of those. Not a huge fan of Poor Things, but Emma Stone smashed it. Like, if there wasn't a performance that great at the center of that film, I think that film would be interminable for a lot of people. Who you know, those types of people like me, who's it's not really my type of film, but she just held it together so well. And also considering there's kind of like questionable sexual politics in the film, I think she like walks that tightrope really well and gives the character a respectability that I don't think the script did. So she did a brilliant job. Again, not a huge fan of Maestro, but Carey Mulligan fucking smashed it in Maestro. Completely outshone Bradley Cooper's showy performance, in my opinion. And I'm not a big fan of Carey Mulligan either. But I thought her emotional journey in that film was really difficult to do. And I thought she did it so well. You know, she played it in a way that she didn't kind of position herself as a villain almost, I guess. You really felt for her, even though she's often in the background. And towards the end, when she gets ill, I kind of started to think, oh, it's kind of her film, really. It felt like it by the end. Sandra Huller, Anatomy of a Fall. Sorry, I'm only going through these ones in more depth because I think it's a really strong category. Sandra Huller, because she did Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest, it feels like she has a very good case for getting this. Although she probably doesn't have a chance, which we'll come on to. Those two, either one of those performances is an absolute elite performance. The fact she's got both in 1 year is incredible. I know you're only nominated for one film, so you shouldn't vote for them for two, but that's an all-time year, that one. Those two films and those two performances. And the nuance that she has to give in Anatomy of a Fall is so subtle but so important, and to the duplicitousness of the film, like the fact that you don't really know who did it and at what point and when and blah blah blah. I think it's really important that she balances that properly, and it's so well done. Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon. She is the heart and soul of that film. It's fucking about 9 years long. Every single time she's on screen, she captivates the camera and the audience. Same thing. That's speaking of a film that has Robert De Niro and Leo DiCaprio in it, and she often and Jesse Plemons, and she shares the screen with them quite a lot, and she outshines them all as a less experienced actor, and holds it together, in my opinion. she was absolutely incredible. So this is a really tough category. I think I would, if you think about what film could you imagine someone else doing the role, and what film would it detract from most if you kind of changed them? I think it's between Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone in real life. So between those, I guess I would say Lily Gladstone just at a push. But that's so hard. That's such a competitive thing. I talked about it for way too long. Sorry. Best actor: Bradley Cooper, Maestro; Colman Domingo, Rustin; Paul Giamatti, Holdovers; Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer; Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. I really liked American Fiction, and I think I was so impressed by what Jeffrey Wright was able to do because I didn't know he had it in him. I've only really seen Jeffrey Wright in fucking Quantum of Solace, and I think I was sleeping on him a little bit because he holds the emotional and comedic weight of that film really well, and I didn't really know he had either of those things in him. So that's my fault, but now I know, and I'm very impressed. Bradley Cooper in Maestro shouldn't be nominated. It's an absolute fucking joke. Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Colman Domingo in Rustin. Yes, great. Wouldn't give it to them. I think speaking about Paul Giamatti specifically, I think that that's easy for him. He's a brilliant actor, but that's easy for him. Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer. It's kind of it's time moment for Cillian. I don't think he's been nominated before, so it's not in the same sense as Christopher Nolan, but it just feels so right. You can criticize Oppenheimer in many, many ways, and people do, but Cillian Murphy is the rock of that film, and I think he kind of owned the filming, the movie year last year. I think it has to go to Cillian. So we're on to Best Picture: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, can fuck off, I won't talk about it again, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. The one I haven't spoken about yet is Past Lives. So I'm a huge fan of soppy romantic drama. Literally 3 of my absolute favourite films ever are the Before Sunrise, Sunset and Midnight trilogy. I've got a picture on my wall somewhere. I think it's in the other room. I love that type of thing. And I went to see this film kind of being like, I think it's going to be a bit like that. And it was. And yet, I still didn't connect to it as much. And I can only assume it's because I don't connect to the core idea of a long-distance relationship and moving away from a home country. I think I just don't. And so that's probably like a kink in my experience that maybe inhibits my experience of the film. So in terms of the others, I'm not a fan of Poor Things. That's that. I'm just not. I just don't like that kind of disgusty comedy. That's not a word. Killers of the Flower Moon, well done, Marty. Great film, great achievement. Too long. I don't think it is the best picture. I think it made some mistakes in the second half. I think it makes mistakes with how it deals with Lily Gladstone's character. It kind of sidelines her. Yes, she's ill, but it really kind of there's no mystery there. Martin Scorsese keeps talking about in interviews like, oh, it was initially a mystery and then Leo was supposed to play the cop and then we changed it and Leo was playing the perpetrator. And I think it lacks that mystery, and I think it sympathizes too much with Leo in a way and doesn't give Lily Gladstone center stage as much as it should. So we've got Zone of Interest, Oppenheimer, Holdovers, Barbie, Anatomy of a Fall. American Fiction is brilliant, but I just don't think it's weighty enough to win Best Picture. I think it's just a great, great film. I'm also gonna rule out Barbie. I think it was brilliant, had a really good time, but it's not perfect. It's not the best picture. I think, again, also it makes some mistakes in the second half, I think with some of the Will Ferrell bits. So Anatomy of the Fall I thought was absolutely sublime. Holdovers, I think it feels too easy, and I hate to say that, but I said that about Paul Giamatti. I feel it about Alexander Payne as well. Should a film feeling easy discredit it? No, I loved it. I'll be watching it every Christmas probably for the rest of my life. It just feels like the other options are so weighty and such kind of like monumental achievements. It would feel a shame to give it to such a slight film. So I'm going to rule out the Holdovers. So Anatomy of a Fall, Oppenheimer, and Zone of Interest are left. I think that Oppenheimer is a brilliant achievement, and you almost want to give it to that. I think it will go to that in real life, but you almost want to give it to that because of just that, because it feels like such an achievement in all the different categories, the performances and all the technical categories. And it feels like time for Christopher Nolan. But do I think it was the actual best picture versus Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest? I'm not sure, because I would count Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest as pretty much perfect films. Anatomy of a Fall specifically. I think Zone of Interest slightly loses its way in the final third, but Anatomy of a Fall I think has a shout as being like a perfect film. I think there's precedence for a foreign film winning an Oscar now after Parasite, so that's great. It's going to go to Oppenheimer, though. I'm not going to be disappointed by that. I think between Oppenheimer and Anatomy of a Fall, that's what I'd give it to. I think Zone of Interest in real life has a better chance than Anatomy of a Fall, and I wouldn't be disappointed with that either. But it's going to Oppenheimer. Wow. Talked a lot. Thanks very much, guys. See you next time. And enjoy the Oscars. I'll be back for a review next week. I'm looking forward to... My favourite thing I'm looking forward to is Ryan Gosling singing I'm Just Ken. And, I didn't go through what I would actually give it to if it wasn't the nominees. And I kind of can't be arsed now. I think we kind of went through that. I think we kind of went... Oh, well... No, I can't be arsed. I'm done. Bye!